I was editing the podcast yesterday and literally fell asleep on my computer.
Wonderful. Normal labor.
Nice.
Unionized podcasters, in my honest opinion.
What we need to do is
Riley is not letting himself unionize.
because he's boss CEO mindset.
He needs to be flexible.
Exactly. We need to be able to innovate.
But we had a live show and that was cool.
Yeah, that was fine. Didn't get booed.
We had more than 10 people show up.
That was unexpected.
Only one of them was your cousin, so that was good.
That's the
Raheem
update from London. What about America? Is everybody in America feeling safe?
Yeah. I mean, I'm in San Francisco, so I feel pretty safe. It's not very gunny place.
Well, I mean, I get shot on a daily basis. But that's fine because it gives me an iron supplement to my vegan diet.
Yeah, that's the best way to counteract soy is with it's a steady diet of lead from an AR-15, which does not stand for assault rifle. So all of those murdered people are actually fine.
Matt,
it wasn't an assault rifle.
Is this why I hear you now carry several tactical pistols at all time with laser sights in order to fend off the libs?
No, I just drive around in a giant gun.
Ah, that also works. I think that's called a tank, isn't it?
Yeah, and the way that it moves forward is that the barrels are pointed backwards, so when you fire it, it goes forward from the recoil.
Oh yeah. What has our favorite manga artist been up to?
You know, we don't know much about Ben Garrison. You know, he hides in the shadows. Apparently, he was the director of a very famous anime called Neon Genesis Evangelion.
I've heard that,
but we're not sure. But he did a bit today. He did a bit this week. He did his cartoon, and it shows a young guy holding a gun. He's at a crossroads, and like every time you approach a crossroads, he has two options to go with. So on the left, it's a sign that says school with no armed officers, and on the other side it says school with armed officers, and the caption is, if you were a school shooter, what school would you go to? Because as we all know, school shooters are incredibly rational people, and
also there was a armed officer at the school that just got shot up.
But didn't you see what Trump said? He was a coward.
Yeah.
Good.
But, I mean, okay, he was a coward. How are you going to do a coward screening for all of these people you're arming to put into schools?
I would love that.
How are you supposed to know how these doughy suburban, basically glorified mall cops are going to respond to somebody showing up with a gun? You have no way of knowing how they're going to fucking respond.
I don't know what this armed. I know there's like apparently been pictures of this guy who was supposed to be the armed cop at the school looks like, but I don't know what he looks like. So in my head, all I'm seeing is like Paul Blart on his like scooter.
Basically, because when it was discovered that he just stood outside while it was happening, he immediately retired. So he's an older gent.
One of the things that I found remarkable about the Trump press conference this week was that he like just very blatantly said about, so when he was like this whole idea about arming teachers, he said something along the lines of like really talented teachers will be able to stop school shooters, as if like the point of being a talented teacher.
Yeah, that would put a new slant on Dead Poets Society, wouldn't it?
As we know from this cop who was on the campus and didn't do anything, it needs more than training. You need to be willing to run in and shoot somebody, which means that there's two basic groups of people you're going to be able to arm to go into a school. They're either going to be guys like this deputy who look like they're actual, deterrent, but it turns out not too keen on walking up to somebody with a assault rifle. Or you get people who are dying for that to happen, who are the ones most likely to shoot somebody for dropping their backpack or something like that. So those are your two options. You give it to sort of like easygoing, tough pudgy dads, when you have no guarantee that they're going to be willing to throw down when the time comes, or you give it to the most unstable, eager to kill maniacs you can find, which seems like it would cause its own set of problems, to put it lightly.
Oh, if you had a school guarded by those maniacs, if you had a school guarded by those maniacs, it would quickly become the subject of one of those like right-wing hard-on articles, like the most disciplined school in America. See how well behaved these children are. And then there's one child like, I didn't do my French homework and I was kneecapped, and it was like just as it should be, like the good old days.
Oh, good, excellent. Well, I guess the gun crisis will never be solved. There is nothing we can do about it because of freedom. Because people are just, because you can't limit freedom in any way, and if there was a law against it, then someone would find a way to break it. So let's just surrender to fucking chance.
A bald eagle shedding a single tear as a child with his last breath says, "I've never felt so free."
Oh, anyway, shall we get into some of the patented content?
I'm not allowed to look at the content, even
Boys and
though it's right on
girls.
the screen. So,
How do we feel about that?
Should we introduce the show first?
yeah,
that was my plan, Miley.
Good
We've
idea.
done this for dozens of episodes, and we never get this right. We've literally never gotten it right, and maybe next time will be the time. Maybe on our 1-year anniversary, we can finally do the introduction properly.
It's a bit like the school shootings, really. If only there was some way to prevent this.
No, I don't see one. I'm too free.
I mean, the only solution would be for all of us to be armed, right?
So you can shoot me every time I
Yeah.
flub the intro. Good.
Create a sense of tension.
It'll come out in the audio
And
quality.
as we know, pressure makes diamonds. So,
welcome, finally.
Oh no, that sounds like a Jay Shetty tweet.
Okay. Welcome to Trashfuture, the podcast for how the future is trash, or if will continue to be trash if we don't adopt fully automated luxury gay space communism. My name is Riley. You can find me on Twitter at Rala.
my name's Hussein. You can follow me at Kazvani.
Jump the gun.
Our two denizens of the bowl today in the great
Great
country.
liberal states of America.
The America, I think you'll find.
The lib state.
So the less interesting of the two, me on every episode of this podcast, Milo Edwards. You can follow me on Twitter at Milo_Edwards. I have a hangover.
Okay, I'm Matt Christman. Hello, everyone. I've just never introduced myself when I've guested on a podcast, so I'm
Okay.
a little thrown.
Would you rather we intro to you?
No, we're
No,
like
it's fine.
Forbes.
I didn't know that's how they did it across the pond. But I'm Matt Christman from the podcast.
Is this a violation of your
Capo
rider?
Trap House. That's me.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, this. We have a number of traditions across the pond. Many of them are to do with us extracting free labor from our podcast guests. Because we don't let them unionize, we can just make them introduce themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, good, excellent.
Okay, so product time.
Yes, I have here in front of me a product that I will ask you guys what you think this is. Matt, I've actually picked this one especially for you. I think this will. I wonder. It may make you angry. If it does, I'm sorry in advance.
All right, I'm bracing myself.
All right.
I'm girding my loins.
It is Crocs.
Oh, it's the shoes?
Prox?
Ordinarily, we reserve this for really stupid products, and Crocs normal are very comfortable and good footwear. So good, yes.
Okay, so I'm-
My first instinct is Wi-Fi enabled.
Wait, hang on. So is the name of this thing actually Crocs, but it's just an unrelated product? Is that what I'm supposed to understand from this?
Okay, it is. The full name is Leather Crocs and Condom Socks.
That's the title of one of my Facebook albums.
wow, you've actually really stumped me on this one.
Yep. Yeah, I thought so.
Does it have anything to do with Wi-Fi or Bluetooth?
No, this is of the two things that we deal with, sort of the technological and the sort of pointlessly fancy. This is one of the latter.
Okay, so it's a pointlessly fancy croc.
Okay, so it's a croc that also acts as a condom for when you're having sex with a woman who is blind.
Unfortunately, none of that is quite right. And just because of the nature of this thing, I'm going to dive right in more to the actual description. The premium leather Crocs, featuring Henderscheme's famed leather craftsmanship and Goodyear welt technique, are the major key piece from this year's collection. Perfect for when you have your kid's soccer game at 3 p.m., but a meeting at 4 p.m.
Wait, are they perfect for the boardroom and the yacht?
Yeah, not to mention the discoteca.
I would wear Crocs to the discoteca.
Oh, no, Matt, I picked this because I know you're a Croc aficionado. The reason I sort of picked this is that this is essentially a version. Like, how much is a normal Croc?
One of them? That would be odd. I've never priced single ones. No, a pair of them, I think I bought.
It depends if we're talking saltwater or freshwater.
I bought my pair for, I think, something like $20.
Okay. It's relatively reasonable.
A nice round number.
Reasonable.
Yeah. But what do we think like a premium leather Croc that's perfect for taking your kid to the soccer game and then going to a meeting throughout the course of an afternoon, possibly a discoteca later?
Maybe $50.
I mean, I really value that kind of convenience and luxury, so I'm going to say $5,000.
I'm gonna say 500. I reckon this is for the everyman. This shoe. This isn't for the elites.
Yeah, this is affordable. This is affordable style. This is the thing, is like this is proven very hard to find, but I've taken an average of all of Henderscheme's other shoes. It's this Japanese company, and it looks as though this pair of Crocs is probably going to, on average, run you between 800 and 900 pounds, which in a
oof, Maroon.
Yeah, seems like a deal to me.
See, we don't have a Patreon, so. We
only have crypto kitties, and we're not actually sure how much those crypto kitties are worth.
Last I checked, it was anywhere between like $10 and $10,000. But you know,
either one of them, as Jay Shetty would say,
and anywhere between a 1 square inch of a Henderscheme leather Croc and several pairs of Henderscheme leather Crocs. The reason that this struck me so much is I think it proves one of the also condom socks that was never made clear. It seems to just be bright colored socks that come in condom style wrappers, which I guess that's part of what you get for like $2,000. But what
the only condom a Croc user will ever need.
But what makes this sort of jump out to me is like I think it does kind of almost sort of not prove in any kind of real sense, but it sort of I think it lends something to I think one of our show's main contentions, which is that a state of extreme inequality produces less and less rational products as the marginal value of every dollar goes down for like a smaller and smaller number of people with a stupid amount of buying power, and you'll end up with several months' rent, but for a pair of what can only be described as ironic shoes.
Speak for yourself, mate. Like, I'm going to go buy myself a pair.
Yeah.
And then
I can't believe that they're actually recommending that you wear them with socks. That's what I find most upsetting about this.
That's how I wear them. Yeah. But the thing is that I did not get the Croc because I had any preference for them as a shoe. I had bought a pair of loafers, and while I was wearing them, I realized very quickly that they were creating a very drastically enlarged blister in the back of my foot that exploded all over the place. And I put a Band-Aid on it, and I tried to let it heal, but they were the shoes I was wearing, and I couldn't basically wear the shoes without this thing rubbing against this very, very sore open wound. So I needed a shoe that would allow my heel to be not rubbed against. And I have a personal oath that I will never wear sandals of any kind. So the only thing that kind of fit the bill of leaving the heel exposed without technically being sandals were Crocs. So I only got them medicinally. They had a medical purpose to them, and they are. I will admit they're comfortable, but I don't wear them that much now. Now that I'm healed up.
Yeah, now that you're.
This is actually the Trashfuture infomercial. This is how we monetize the podcast.
That's how, like, InfoWars has their pills, but we advertise Crocs.
Well, what really strikes me as hilarious is that it appears as though for a massive premium, you can get rid of the element of your shoe that will not have you get blisters. Because I can't see a universe in which someone paying for this wouldn't get blisters. But I think the thing I'm trying to drive to with this, I suppose, is there is just this very, very strange like fetish, and you see it quite a bit in like everything from like food culture to now fucking multi-$1,000 Crocs, is this weird fetishization of stuff that is supposed to be cheap, but and sort of turned into a luxe product.
Yeah, absolutely, because they're really nobody's making any new ideas. Nobody can do a new thing, so all you can do is sort of slowly march down the cultural ladder and exoticize and make luxury every element of it, going all the way down, because we've run out of ideas. We're just kind of waiting around to die, and so if having a viable retail model is entirely predicated on taking money from people who basically have forgotten what money means because they have so much of it, that you just make everything leather or Wi-Fi enabled, or you throw some, if it's food, you deconstruct it and throw some truffle oil in there.
Or you make it just hazardous for human consumption, like raw water.
Well,
so the marketplace of ideas is actually a failure.
Shocking, I know.
So all the YouTube videos that I've been watching, they were lying to me.
Well, it's like I don't.
Imagine my shock.
I don't know if you guys saw this either, but like, McDonald's today announced that they're now bringing back Szechuan sauce in every outlet, in unlimited quantities. And they're releasing a podcast series about the initial Szechuan sauce debacle.
Finally, a triumph for the smartest people on earth.
So this is the Szechuan sauce that came as the result of very smart, intelligent show Rick and Morty, right?
Yeah, the Genius Show.
The Genius Show. And it caused lots of like late 20s people to like riot outside of McDonald's because they wanted that sauce.
Without sort of going for too much podcast intertextuality, Matt, I'm aware that this phenomenon has in the past sort of given you one of your many aneurysms.
Yeah, it's pretty disparaging, the whole deal about the Szechuan sauce, and now them turning it into a chance to be a meme. I mean, everyone makes fun of brands trying to be cool on Twitter by using slang and talking about how their nuggets are fleek or whatever, but they really does seem like you're crossing a very terrifying Rubicon to have a fucking podcast. Like that is the machine taking human form. That's like Skynet becoming self-aware, where it's just, we're not just gonna use slang that the kids like to try to sound relatable. We're going to actually have some of our people be like, hey, check out our SoundCloud link. We don't know if we'll do another one, but it was fun to record this one, everybody.
So this week, McDonald's launched a podcast. Logan Paul launched a podcast. We've got some competition, boys.
Fuck.
We've got some competition.
Yeah,
but there's an interesting point, like on a very serious note, because I don't know, Matt, if you know what's happening over in the UK. But the big news of, I guess, this week was that a load of KFCs closed down.
Yes, I heard about that.
So KFC are kind of saying that now everything's fine, but they took out an advertisement in some of like the country's big newspapers, basically saying, we're sorry, it's never going to happen again. Like, and everyone was sort of like, praising this really smart, sleek campaign by KFC to basically like capitalize off like a fucking like outsourcing failure. One that's probably like one that like it was reported a couple of years ago when this outsourcing company was contracted by KFC because of like the job losses that came from the outsourcing proportion of it. But one of like the bits of the very scary subtext was that KFC was really able to like capitalize off this really major fucking corporate failure, right? And what it ultimately showed was that, places like KFC have, they've reached a point where people like have literally said online that like, I cannot live without you, right? That's kind of the message that kind of came across from this. And the marketing people at KFC were really able to kind of like nail that down. And I think that sort of feeds into, what, we had just been talking about with like McDonald's and the idea of like the Szechuan sauce and building cultures around like this dedication to these like really ghoulish corporate brands who like hate their stuff
like
from unionizing.
Neville Cheeseborough set himself on fire in front of his local KFC when he couldn't get his zinger meal.
It's
sorry, folks. We're a cute, sad company whom going through a lot right now. Give us patience, please.
Even you can see like
millennials just like us.
Yeah, no, that's the thing.
Just going through some stuff.
KFC is a millennial company. It still lives with Colonel Sanders. But you saw, like, even then they released an ad that just said FCK on the bucket. Yeah. It's like, they almost swore. But they
didn't even notice.
Yeah. They say they'll do better next time. Like someone who like, does like an acrostic tweet that spells out a slur. Like, sorry.
But it's just like, it's sort of remarkable that like no one in the kind of mainstream conversation was really talking about like, is how, like, because this was the result of like an outsourcing company, right? And no one knows the story. No one. Like,
I didn't know this story.
Yeah, no one really knows the story of like why the hell this like outsourcing company really fucked up, right? Like, was it a distribution problem? Was it like, I have a feeling there's actually to do with like, employee strikes, but no one knows this story. And this is like coming a few weeks after the whole like Carillion thing, where everyone was talking about outsourcing and how like fucked up outsourcing is. So the way that like we treat, government and infrastructure projects, we're not necessarily applying that to like these companies and these organizations who not only like are used every day, but actually have like a lot of, arguably a lot more cultural power than, Carillion-based companies, right? Like, and that's how like these PR people and all these advertisers can really, capitalize off this conversation. They kind of say, distract away from like the failures of like this sort of like shitty, late capitalist bullshit.
Like every time this happens, I always go back to Adorno. I think more and more of just fucking Guy Debord, right? Because I know you like your French Marxist.
Well, yeah, everything is just an advertisement for its own existence. Like all these things, just all these currents of media that we kind of think of as differentiated are really just one long held note of sort of self-reference and self-justification.
Welcome to my Twitter account.
I think then that leads us, I think, to this. And this we accidentally are doing like our whole first segment on like delicious treats. But I don't know if you guys have seen this, but if I know you guys have seen this because we talked about it. There is a movie that is going to be made about flaming hot Cheetos, like a hero film about the creation of flaming hot Cheetos.
If we're entering like a new cinematic universe where we basically lionize CEOs, then at some point we're going to wait for like the 3-part Elon Musk biopic, right?
I'm surprised they haven't. Have they made that?
I mean,
well, no, actually, this is the cinematic universe we're going towards,
right.
Which is, again, going back to some of my favorite European Marxists, is there's going to be one movie every year. It's going to be like 7 days long, and it's going to have all your favorite characters in it. It's going to have Captain America. It's going to have Homer Simpson. It's going to have fucking Subway Jared, because that's now a cute reference. It's going to have there's gonna be a version of the Avengers where like Hank Hill is involved because all of these companies.
It's gonna have big fancy shirts.
There's going to be a human centipede of every actor who's played Colonel Sanders in a commercial.
I'd watch that.
But one of them's a woman, so it's good.
Oh yeah,
She's at
no,
the end. Be respectful. She's the last person in the centipede.
she is the Colonel.
Does that mean she goes at the front of the centipede or at the back?
I guess that's a good question. Yeah, she'd want to be at the front. You always want to be at the front of the centipede. That's the best gig. And, that's why I'm not a big fan of unions, because that usually ends up just being seniority. It's not who's the best person in the centipede. It's who's been in the centipede the longest. That's not fair. It reduces my incentive to be productive when I can't work my way to the front of the centipede.
I cannot wait until the point where we can write think pieces about why people of color should be at the front of the human centipede. I cannot wait for this part of the discourse.
Well, it's that you can't...
In many ways, the worst thing about the human centipede was the first in, first out rule.
Well, no, our human centipede is going to be dynamic and innovative, so a union's not right for it. This basically the Flaming Hot Cheetos film is
Elon Musk is going to make a human centipede that will go into space, won't he?
Yeah, but everyone's going to be wearing shirts that say like the cake is a lie or 42 or like fucking.
It'll be cute and edgy.
It's gonna be everyone's gonna be like have like cat
lols
makeup
with a U.
Elon Musk is gonna make a human centipede where everyone has to wear cat makeup. That's how that's gonna go. But no, this thing is a story. It's about how Richard Montanez was the guy who invented it. This thing was the son of an immigrant who grew up as a migrant farm worker in the grape fields of Southern California, got a job as a janitor at the Frito-Lay plant in a town called Rancho Cucamonga in 76 after dropping out of high school. And then one day watched a video from the Frito-Lay president that asked Montanez and his fellow employees to, quote, act like an owner. The way, like, it's almost like you can see from these couple sentences exactly what this film is going to be. It's going to be an advertisement for Flaming Hot Cheetos and the system that continues to produce them. But it also is going to be lionizing a useful immigrant, someone we shouldn't kick out because he came in and gave us a new way to clog our arteries.
What I want to know is who's going to play the Flaming Hot Cheeto? There's one guy I have in mind, but he's busy being the president right now.
Whoa, Trevor Noah.
It's going to be played by a human centipede of like Ryan Reynolds, Ryan Gosling, and Paul Ryan.
I think Jared Leto will be the Cheeto.
No, I told you it's Subway Jared.
Oscar-winning Cheeto.
Subway Jared
Well,
Leto.
this is basically...
Yeah, Oscar-winning. The kid was called Oscar.
It's 8 Mile for CEO mindset gamers, isn't it? It's like his palms are greasy, knees weak, mouse is heavy. There's Cheetos on his sweater already, starring Jay Shetty.
Yeah. Well, but what really catches me about this is the speech where the owner of Frito-Lay says, act like an owner. Right? Like, act like an owner. You're not going to get paid like an owner, but please do go ahead and act like one.
Nope.
I mean, this is what's happening like Jay Shetty.
I'm sorry, that's a typo. It says act like a boner.
Like, this is like something that comes out of Jay Shetty's videos, right? Which is like, if you act like a CEO, then you will become a CEO, right? But like, what the fuck do owners do?
He coated some Cheetos with chili powder one day.
Disrupting Cheetos.
Yeah. I sort of spoke with the president and company's secretary, and then said, I had 2 weeks to prepare a presentation for the company's executives. I made a trip to the library and
one-slide presentation.
And borrowed a book on business strategies, bought his first ever tie, and then boldly went to go and sell the idea to the company's executives.
Wait, so this guy was able to get a copy of Gorilla Mindset. If something comparative happened to now, it'd be done by a 0 hours worker who wouldn't have actually any rights of ownership anyway.
He didn't, is the thing.
Yeah, but the thing is that he doesn't get any extra money for making the Cheetos, but when they do the the merchandising from the movie, he gets a percentage of his own plush figures and Funko Pops.
I was hoping this was going to be one of those like dark rags to riches, back to rags biopics, you know, like where he like gets rich, but then he goes like mad with power. And you know, his wife leaves him and he gets addicted to like opiate painkillers, and then he gambles away all his money on greyhounds. And then one day he's just in like a 7-Eleven and there's like a gamer buying a pack of flaming hot Cheetos and he's like, you know, I actually invented those. And they're like, shut up, old man. Cut to black.
Well, what they did is he is an executive now of the company he once worked as a janitor for and spearheads the marketing team. And he says he believes his courage to seize opportunities stems from his humble beginnings. He said, quote, I quote here, "The antidote to fear is hunger. When you have hunger for a job position, knowledge, or a new house, you go and get it, and fear will never get a hold of you."
Jesus Christ.
That's not true. When I'm scared of things, being hungry wouldn't help at all. Like if someone's like, "Oh yeah, do this bungee jump," the last thing I want to be is like also starving hungry. Be like, no, I'm not doing either of these things. Bring me a burger.
But it's like how loaded with ideology is that?
But if it was true, if the antidote to fear was really really hungry, then like actually like all of London's homeless people should be like, you know, brain billionaire CEOs, right?
Well, no, but what we have to do is all of the homeless people who are very hungry, give them guns and put them in schools.
I mean, you laugh, but you joke about that, but it probably will happen.
It is just this idea that the only thing standing between like, you know, you and material success is that, and we come across this all the time, is you don't want it enough. You just have to want it and want it and want it and want it so bad. The desire for it just consumes you, and before you know it, you're renting a fucking book on entrepreneur brain and putting chili dust on Cheetos, and so you don't have to starve to death. That's essentially that's congratulations. You put chili dust on Cheetos. Now you don't have to starve to death. Also, you were a good immigrant.
But also, like the funny thing about this is that like this type of food is very common in like parts of South Asia where there are lots of poor people, because like the way that you kind of keep, you know, so one of the things that, you know, in Gujarat, which is where my family comes from, you know, the poor people that are over there, like the way that they make food to basically sustain themselves for a day is through like, you know, this thing called chevro, which is like, you know, small kind of bits of like fried potato, which they sprinkle with like chili powder, right? And they mix it up. And the reason why they put chili powder on it is that the chili is supposed to like suppress the hunger. Right? So then you work for longer and you can like sustain yourself using that. It's not a food that you enjoy. It's not a food that like, you know, it's a food that you need to survive because you're so fucking poor that you can't do anything else, or you can't eat anything else. And like your only good meal like is reserved for the night. Right? So the fact, you know, so it's sort of like, I was thinking about this and just like, it's just sort of bizarre how, you know, what is effectively like a really similar meal like occupies very different cultural spaces in different countries. I think I will go see the film, but I'll only go see the film if Jared Leto is the Cheeto.
I'll probably wait to see that one at home. I'll probably stream that one. Probably not gonna go to the theater.
Yeah, downloading it illegally is the moral thing to do.
You wouldn't download a car, so why would you download the Cheeto film?
Oh wow, yeah. So I guess that's the update in.
That's the cops.
That's the cops.
Cops coming for bad
The
podcasting.
They're coming to
Please.
arrest you for defaming a brand.
1 second. I just need to email my actual boss, but please continue.
Okay. Well, why don't we take this opportunity to take a quick break and then come back in a second to discuss ways in which, you know, maybe people have done praxis in the past and resisted, you know, being sucked under into the world of flaming hot Cheetos and, you know, brand banter and extremely expensive poor people theme shoes.
Start taking note.
In terms of podcast natural enemies, it's you guys and Pod Save America, right?
Yeah, we're sort of fighting for the soul of the non-chud American electorate, essentially.
It's three people that you're contesting, basically.
Well, there's like 7 Never Trump Republicans in Northern Virginia, and then and then sort of the sort of pickled Chardonnay moms, and then who really is up for grabs between you guys?
I think it's most people who are just genuinely alienated and horrified by the government, and then they either say they want to fight against it, and there's sort of two groups of people. One of them is saying, well, the problem is this bad political party, and meanwhile there's these good guys called the Democrats who, if we support them and their efforts to prosecute Russian intervention and make get bipartisan solutions for healthcare, we're going to make everything good again, because basically Obama was great and we should just get back to that. And then us saying the Democratic Party is as much responsible for the current hell world as the Republicans, and we have to radically expand the idea of what's possible if we're going to make anything viable in the long term that isn't just a continued descent into degradation at every level. So yeah, it starts from the people who sort of feel like they want to do something, they want something to change, and then those are sort of the two relatively, I guess at this point, mainstream audio companions to your worldview on how to fix it.
Yeah, I mean, the Democrats are increasingly like the Avengers, right? Like cobbling together an increasingly farcical combination of everyone you've ever heard of, and now, interestingly, Oprah Winfrey, to sort of combat this like weird cartoon evil.
And all of the worst malefactors of the Bush years, also part of that motley crew, like Bill Kristol and David Frum, and people with blood all over their hands.
David Frum.
Wow. Yeah. I made out with his daughter once.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I literally did.
You have to tell this story. You have to tell it.
Unfortunately there's not much to it,
because that makes you like a From.
You're a collaborator.
If I kiss the daughter of a From, does that make me a From?
Yes, it like 100% does.
Unfortunately.
That's why me and Hussein are on our Lysistrata style, sex strike. It's to avoid collaborating with the chuds.
Unfortunately, there's not really much to say. Like, she was around my university, and then we met at a party and sort of ended up sharing a wee snog, as they say in Britain. As we say, I don't know what to say about Britain. Is it they or we?
Did she like slowly whisper into your ear, "The Iraq War was good"?
No, it was a really bizarre experience. She's since at some point then moved to Israel for, according to the Facebook update, reasons connected to Zionism.
David Frum's daughter, please call Riley. It's been a long time. We just want to know if you're okay.
Son-in-law. God.
So Matt, there was one thing you were telling us about how when there was the lion lay down with the lamb, and Felix Biederman went on an episode of Pod Save America.
Well, it wasn't Pod Save America. It's a spin-off podcast that John Lovett has called Love It or Leave It, which is apparently like a panel game show for him and his half-wit Hollywood friends to like kind of do wait, don't tell me jokes. And we were at a podcast festival in Los Angeles, and they were doing it too. And they'd been him and Felix been sort of cordial on Twitter, so he invited him to come on. And like most podcasts, that show is generally about an hour long. But Felix's episode, if you find it, is about 45 minutes because they cut out almost everything he said. They pulled like the rock bottom interview with Homer Simpson on him.
It's a very like Democrat thing too, isn't it?
But just so apparently, I really wished I'd been there because apparently he made people very uncomfortable. There's one point where he just flatly said Iran should have a nuke, and the entire crowd gasped in unison. That didn't make it into the show.
You know what the weird thing is, though, right? Like, the last person I know, sort of as a foreign policy thinker, who is a strong advocate for Iran getting a nuke is Kenneth Waltz, one of the most sort of conservative, reactionary, like neocon dumbass motherfuckers who wrote this like theory of international politics in 1979, which was just this, for those of our readers who haven't been studied international relations, the dumbest non-science. It's basically a text on how nothing matters. There is no such thing as ideology. The only thing that creates international political systems is kind of the fact of anarchy and then the balance of power between countries. Nothing else matters at all.
I don't think Iran is any less rational than any of the countries that do have nukes.
No, it's not. It would be very rational for Iran to get a nuke.
Yeah. We should just smuggle them one.
Yeah. So this is to our listeners. Stop sending us crypto kitties and start sending us nukes via Iran. No, it's. I just
crowdfunding the Iranian nuclear program.
All I'm saying, right, is that Trashfuture is Sistani praxis.
I'm going to plug my computer in.
Okay, so now I get to lead the show. Great. Shit, what do I do? No one will ever be able to understand our complex thoughts. Okay, we are back.
That's I love the idea of Felix advocating a nuclear armed Iran to like a group of people who've come to see Neera Tanden make like half of a joke, and then it's like 20 minutes of soaring oratory about how America's better than Trump, despite the fact that America elected Trump. So one of the reasons that we sort of Matt's here with us today is largely because he knows that, yes, that a reference from Hegelbon. And also the fact that that he actually knows about stuff that's happened in the past, which I don't know if you guys have read some freaking Orwell, but he who controls the past controls the future, and that's from Orwell, the inventor of freedom.
I mean, I've browsed some Wikipedia pages.
Yeah, that's the
that's like, good enough for me.
I mean, look, that's how you get a first at the University of York.
So this is one of my sort of favorite historical movements that I'm broadly aware of, but there is this basically. I am very much in love with the idea of the Luddites, and I was hoping I could hear a little more about the Wikipedia pages of these people.
Yeah, well, hold on, let me pull it up here. Is that the Luddites were a group of English textile workers and weavers in the 19th century who destroyed weaving machinery as a form of protest. That's from the first line of... wait a minute, apparently, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Luddite is an EP by Grotius, released in 1992 by Spirit Music Industries. Shit. No, the Luddites were stockers, people who were skilled weavers, who were being displaced by machinery that was allowing for the sort of mass production of textiles, and fearing for the end of their livelihoods, they took to, this is roughly during the Napoleonic era in England, in the 18 teens, would wreck
they were millennials.
Wreck machinery. They would get together, they would get riled up. Sometimes they would attack factories. They would attack machinery. Occasionally, they killed a couple of mill owners by bushwhacking them. They were named after a fictional guy. There is no Ned Ludd. That wasn't a real guy. He was just he was like the Guy Fawkes mask that they wore, and it was sort of the first. It was before it was a proto basically labor movement in the sense that it was the first sort of time that that workers in the UK, which is obviously where the Industrial Revolution was born, started to organize, even though it was haphazard and largely sort of around mob actions, organize against what they saw as economic changes that were going to undermine their livelihood.
Because obviously it didn't work, because we not only have not only do we still have weaving machines, but we also now have Uber for weaving machines.
The weaving machine has Wi-Fi, and it will tell you that in order to qualify for your company health insurance, you have to do 5,000 steps that day.
That reminds me of we once reviewed a product that was a scale that has no numbers and instead uses something called psychology. But you can get an enterprise plan where it tells your boss how much you weigh in numbers. You get the psychology, your boss gets the numbers. This is the reason. I get the reason I kind of wanted to sort of get through this topic is I sort of find myself asking all the time, right? Like, if we were to try to be Luddites today, what would we smash?
You smash your bloody smartphones. Because they're called that even though they make you dumber.
Wow, profound.
That sounded like such a lib take, more like a dumb phone, am I right? Put it down and talk to each other, kids.
Yeah, get off of that Instagram.
Well, it's
never show yourself, coward.
They sort of saw that things weren't really going to plan for them. They were the first organized labor movement. They did some destruction of capital stock, but ultimately, like I say, it didn't work. We still got the capitalism sort of persevered. Yeah, and that was inevitable. And the thing is that it really does show that there is a conflict sort of between technological advancement is sort of necessary for capitalism not only to be developed but also to be superseded. Like that was Marx's whole point, was that capitalism needed to develop to a level whereby the need for labor could be reduced to the point that there could be equitable distribution of resources without hyper-exploitation of workers. And that means you need technology. You need these machines to exist. But since they're being created under capitalism, they also can cause disemployment. Not necessarily, but they can. And even if they don't in aggregate, they absolutely do in specific industries. Like, for example, with these stockiners, traditional classic economists would say, "Oh, you fools, you're smashing these stocking machines, but don't you realize that by increasing this technological thing, that creates lowered cost of production, which lowers prices, increases supply, and keeps the economy stronger and increases jobs in the long run. But that doesn't do anything for a specific person whose specific job is making a stocking that he no longer has, and he has no training in anything else. And in the Marxist formula, that tension is supposed to eventually lead to workers just saying, well, you are unnecessary since we have the technology and you're literally parasites. We're going to take you. We're going to just take it from you. And what we're seeing now with capitalism and technological capitalism reaching this really advanced stage, and with automation really being a potentially massively disrupting trend in the very near future, is that at the other side of that is, yes, it creates alienation and anger among people who are being displaced, but it also reduces the number of people you need to keep an economy functioning, which kind of reduces the individual leverage that workers have, because they're less able to withdraw their labor and thereby make capitalism fall apart. I think the exception to that, and you saw it, we're talking about the KFC thing, is in logistics.
Logistics is still powered by people, and we have such an attenuated supply chains now to try to keep things smooth and efficient and reduce waste and spillage and things, is that you don't have big warehouses full of stuff that can easily be brought to retailers or wherever. It's all sent at the last minute in order to fill specific requests, which means that if, as you saw with the KFC people, if you cut that supply off, it causes an instant crisis. We had a thing like that similar this a few months ago here in the U.S. with Whole Foods, which is a fancy bougie organic chain of grocery stores. They got
like $8 for a pineapple.
Right. Well, they changed their procurement process to reduce waste, and it led to massive shortages and just empty shelves, just like Venezuela style, just nothing. And that was just because
did they make their delivery system?
Yeah, and so that's really where there still is. That's where you could actually do, if you're going to smash something, that's where you would do it. If you were going to lud it up in the 21st century, it would be the gears to put something into would be in the logistics thing, because that's where you could have millions of dollars being lost instantly, where you could have massive disruption in a way that would be very difficult for companies to adapt to.
Their best life was not lived as a kind of empowered consumer with cheaper stockings, but rather as something close to an empowered worker who's able to eat. Because if you can't eat, it doesn't matter how good the logistics are for KFC, you can't afford any.
Wrong. If you don't eat, then your ambition increases.
But I almost wonder, right? Like in the sort of 17th, 18th centuries, like capital stocks were stuff. But even now, there are things that don't seem to have logistics, right? Like companies that just sort of seem to exist to kind of just own stuff, whether that's IP, like software IP,
or the libs,
or CPAC owning the libs, or even like. I saw recently that there was a hedge fund that had started that trades only in cryptocurrency, and that is all entirely automated. It has no employees. It's just a computer program, and all of its clients are other computerized hedge funds with no employees. It is machines working together to cook the planet.
Well, that is the end result of capitalism. It is where humans are. Because the whole idea is that you create a system that doesn't really need human intelligence to govern itself, and through technology, that's possible more and more. And then there'll literally be nobody. People can talk about guillotines, but there'll be nobody that cut a head off, because it's just algorithms.
Yeah, and it's this thing where we have to take our lesson from the Luddites before it's too late.
Yeah,
it's smashing.
Luddites is used as like a slur, isn't it?
Yeah, it's used to insult people now.
Yeah, that's where we are in the discourse.
Yeah, you're resisting, having your weight monitored by your boss. You're resisting, this cute, fun new cinematic universe where King of the Hill gets fucking, where his ass gets beaten off by Thor's hammer, and you're resisting this wonderful new world where that will open up to like high frequency trading robots trading with other high frequency trading robots in a way that will just extinguish all life on Earth. You're such a fucking Luddite. Why do you hate progress?
Yeah, like why are you so backward in thinking that having a secure job is a good thing when in fact the future is being flexible and working Deliveroo during the day and Uber at night?
These people, like in the 17th, 18th centuries, this group of Luddites were unable to be infiltrated because they all knew each other from the factory floor, right? Like, but now, if you're going to get a group of people together to like go and disrupt KFC's supply chain, the question I never can quite answer is how do you get this group of, how do you get people together to trust one another who've never met because they all doing Fiverr work? Yeah, just doing Fiverr work.
I don't know. That's the question I've been asking. That's like to me a central crisis and a central irresolvable at this point dilemma for organizing in the 21st century. And I wish I had an answer. I don't. Blockchain, maybe it's the way, because you have to have an authenticated transaction to be in the blockchain, right? So.
No, you know what? Like, you joke about this, but
Absolutely.
actually, like, I spoke to someone who was very serious about this the other day. Like, so she works in tech PR, and she was kind of just saying that, oh yeah, like everyone kind of thinks that blockchain is just used for like, cryptocurrency CEOs and stuff. But actually, like, there's so many purposes. I was like, oh, okay, like, tell me what those purposes are. And like she paused for a very long time. I was like, well, and then she came onto the whole thing of like, well, people are always very concerned about workers' rights when it comes to freelancing and gig economy stuff. But on the blockchain, because you can't get rid of anything, and because it's all kind of like sequential, like it will be useful for like workers' organizations. So in the long term, the blockchain is going to be like this revolutionary force. And like said of this, like with complete lack of like complete unawareness of naivety. If the blockchain if you can't get rid of anything from the blockchain, then in theory, like it should be accessible to everyone. And when you have something like that, the people with the most power and resources will automatically have more power than the people not. So it's actually like an even worse way to organize workers.
I think that sort of goes back to something Matt was saying earlier, right? Where you've got this thing. They're sort of neutral in themselves. If anything, you need them. You need that technological development, but at the same time, it's how they're used. So and so the perfect example of this is the that company that wants to be Uber for buses, Skedaddle, trying to end tipping so you can rate every interaction you have with another human on a blockchain. And based on your rating of that interaction, they get amount of money.
Yeah,
that's an enormously unequalizing, and not to mention ridiculously stupid, cruel way to organize society. You could either have the Uber for buses where every interaction is rated, and if you're not sort of polite to the guy whose Maserati you're parking, then you can't afford your meal of flaming hot Cheetos and your movie of flaming hot Cheetos. But if this could be used by sort of anything from insurrectionists to unions so that they can know everything about one another, they can trust one another, and they can organize without being infiltrated.
Yeah, and I mean the thing to remember is it's not like earlier organizers weren't infiltrated even by people that they knew. Like there was a few years after the Luddite uprising and riots began, there was an attempted sort of working class coup attempt in England that got thwarted by a spy. So there's still a chance that you can get owned even when you know people, because as plenty of rappers will say, you never really know anyone.
So we've been recording for like a life age of the earth, and we all have things to do. So
we don't actually all have things to do. Matt has things to do.
So Matt, thank you very much for coming on.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
All right, later everybody.
All right,
Later
cheers,
on.
guys.